Hi, Jonathan Williams back again at the Bricks and Mortar podcast. Many of my clients will ask me during the time that we're organising a mortgage for them, how do they protect, how do they ensure that the mortgage is paid off if, first of all, they fall ill, get a critical illness, or God forbid, die before the term of the mortgage ends. And what you need to be considering is protection, an insurance policy, an insurance-backed policy that will pay out in the event of death, critical illness, or illness which prevents you from working. These things are absolutely vital if you're wanting to ensure that you have a good night's sleep. You need to make sure that you have the necessary insurance in place. And at Begley Brown, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to ensure is that we will look at your circumstances. We'll see what protection you have in place. We'll tell you how to fill and plug those gaps. And then it's down to you as to whether or not you feel that you want to do that. So let's talk about the 3 levels of protection that you can take out when you're considering a mortgage. So first up, let's talk about life insurance. I would say life insurance is probably the most important piece of protection that you have to put in place. Ultimately, it means that if you die, then there will be a sum that will be paid out by the insurance company that will pay off the mortgage. There are 2 types of policy. If you've got an interest-only mortgage, then you'll get a level term policy. Level means that the amount that is paid out is the same from day 1 up until the last day that you pay your mortgage. And the term, you would take it out over the term of the mortgage. So that's level term life insurance. Now that's only if you've got an interest-only mortgage. If you've got what's called a capital and interest mortgage, so you're paying a bit of the capital off and a bit of the interest off, then you'd be looking for a decreasing term insurance policy. And what that does is that will track over the term of the mortgage, it will track the capital as it decreases towards the end of the term. So that in essence, if you die at any time during the term of the mortgage, then the mortgage will be paid off. So that's life insurance. What about critical illness? You can suffer a critical illness and you can take a policy out that will make a payment should you suffer one of the critical illnesses as described within the policy. If you are diagnosed with a critical illness, generally they'll cover the big 4. So you're looking at your cancers, you're looking at your heart attack, your muscular sclerosis, and also you're looking at your stroke. So those are the 4 main ones that they will be prepared to pay out on. That's critical illness. It can be quite expensive and it's very much dependent on how old you are. As with most insurances, insurance is cheaper the earlier that you take it out, and that's true of critical illness. Now what you can do is you can combine and have a life insurance policy and a critical illness policy, or you can do a life insurance policy or a critical illness policy. And what would happen is that the payment, the lump sum to pay off the mortgage, would be paid out in the event of the first occurrence. So if you died first, then it would pay out, or if you got a critical illness, then it would pay out. So that's critical illness. And then we go on to income protection. And I think after life insurance, I think income protection is probably the most important. There are so many illnesses that you can get which will not be defined under a critical illness policy, but you cannot work. And that's all very well if you've got a great employer and that employer is prepared to pay you whilst you're on the sick. a lot of doctors, a lot of accountants, a lot of professionals, anybody who works for the local authority will tend to get a 6 and 6 policy through their employers. That's to say the employer will pay 6 months full pay and 6 months half pay. That's absolutely fantastic. But there are a huge amount of people now who are working for themselves, who are working in contracts where they just don't get that kind of great benefit from their employers. And that's where income protection comes into its own. So what would happen is that after a particular deferred period, which you can decide, you will then receive a proportion of your salary. It's not the full salary, it's just a proportion of your salary. And you can choose the maximum amount you can get by legislation, or you can decide a specific amount which is under the maximum amount available in terms of the legislation. As far as cost is concerned, again, as with most insurances, the earlier that you take it out, then the cheaper it is going to be. And I would also say that if you defer your wish to take the benefit for as long a period as possible, then that will have an effect as far as the cost of the premium. So the longer that you take it, longer that you defer the payment, then the cheaper the policy will be. Now, with all these policies, you can take them out as single policies, you can take them out in joint life first occurrence, which means that you take them out if you buy the property jointly. You can have one policy which will cover both of you, and it would pay out on the first event, so the first death, first critical illness, etc. Income protection policies, you'll take those out as individuals. I think that it is absolutely vital that you think about protection. Buying a property is probably one of the most important things, most important decisions that you'll make in your lifetime. And for potentially the cost of a cup of coffee on a daily basis, why wouldn't you want to protect the possibility that you might die before the mortgage pays out, suffer a critical illness, or be off work and your employer doesn't pay? So think long and hard about protection. It's absolutely vital.